always ringing, and Bob sometimes drags his feet getting home. Grab a cup of hot Joe and get ready to take notes from this session. It's time for the Bob Newhart Show. Hit it, boys.
What do you get when you take a dash of the silver screen, a pinch of golden oldies, and a smidgen of screaming? It's time for Matinee Minutia with your hosts DJ and Toppie.
Oh boy, Toppie, it is a scorcher out there today. I felt like the sun had it out for me personally.
Yeah, I understand. I totally understand. It's been it's the dog days of summer already, and it ain't even August, DJ.
No, I just sit in my corner of my house with the curtains closed, and I turn on the fan, and that's all during my workday.
Yeah. You know what? Let's say hello to the chat room right off the bat, because there's someone here for the first time that I am just tickled pink. I just can't believe he's here. DJ, it's Michael, the good humor penguin is here.
Yay! Welcome, Good Humor Penguin. We had the pleasure of Good Humor Penguin at a watch party that we did just the other week here.
Yeah,
we're doing some more of those, but yes, it's definitely good to see someone new in the audience.
That's right, and I think maybe here once before. This might be his first time, but podcast listener extraordinaire, all the way from Australia, RT Cruiser is here. Yeah. And we also want to welcome our good friend Janet, and also the ever-present, always titular Aunt Tudor. That doesn't even make sense. Did you know that I only recently found out what titular means?
I do, elaborate, sir.
Well, it's like the title character, the titular character. I'm not sure what other ways that word is used, but titular is like the title character. Unless I'm totally crazy, in which case someone in the chat room can tell me what it really means.
Well, the heat does get to us now and then.
Yes. I think that's it.
Toppie, just briefly, too, we would be amiss if we didn't mention that it was Gay Pride in many places across this fair land of ours recently.
Yes.
And, I don't know when the first time you went to a parade was, but it wasn't until I was in my 20s. In fact, I had already lived in a couple of states, and I decided to go to the one in Denver, and darn it, I think I'm spoiled, because I don't think there's going to be one that big again.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
But it was definitely a thing to behold, because they have it along one of the historical business routes in town. It takes you right in front of the steps of the state capitol.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a park right out in front of the state capitol where they held the festivities.
Ah, nice. Very nice. Well, I hope that everyone has a very pleasant 4th of July, and that everyone stays safe and practices social distancing, and they don't go too much crazy with the fireworks. I have not heard a single explosion of any kind so far, DJ. What about where you live?
Well, I have some neighbors that, they're offenders of that social distancing stuff, because they've been having their birthday parties, and then they've been having their school friends over for camping. And I if I had to give them a grade for the class, they would fail.
Yes.
But speaking of the 4th of July, Toppie, the star of tonight's show was actually in a musical. Did you know that?
No.
In 1776, the story of how the Declaration of Independence was written.
You're kidding me.
No.
Good Lord, he didn't sing, did he?
Well, I can't be for sure because it's been a while since I saw it. He might have done what we like to call vocalizing, which is trying to speak loudly and on key.
No, I did not know he had. Was it on Broadway?
No, it was a theatrical release. I do believe. In fact,
Oh, I thought it was like a musical on Broadway.
no. Actually, TikTok here, folks. I should have done this research ahead, but I'm going to look real quick here because it literally was just called 1776, and it was a musical about the Declaration of Independence. And I do believe that Mr. Bob Newhart was part of that. So I'm just going to take a gander over here and see who else might have been in that cast. And then we will, of course, step to the side here and get things underway. But let's see here real quick. 1776 was made in 72. And I am waiting for my cast list to come up here. So that would have been the same year that the Bob Newhart Show came out. And we have a bunch of folks in it. Ray Middleton. Blythe Danner was in it. A bunch of folks. So, okay. I don't see him on the cast, so maybe I'm mistaken. But there was a lot of people on this thing called 1776 about the Declaration of Independence. And, since it is the 4th of July, Independence Day here in America, it might not be, something that you want to pass by. It was a fun little musical done in 72 because it was the bicentennial was around the corner.
Yes. Forgive me because I'm trying to help Good Humor Penguin find the audio.
Oh, okay.
All this time he hasn't been able to hear.
Oh, poor thing.
We need to get the show in gear. So, DJ, we're talking about 1972 when this television series, The Bob Newhart Show, came out. And tell us what was going on in the world in 1972.
Alrighty, so in 1972, the year that the Bob Newhart Show premiered on CBS that fall, well, there's a bunch of things going on. And in fact, this isn't our first trip to 1972. We actually have done it a couple of times.
Really?
The last time was last fall when we discussed a movie called You'll Like My Mother.
Ooh.
But President Nixon ordered the development of a space shuttle program in 72. That's where it got its start. Bob Douglas became the first African-American elected to the Basketball Hall of Fame. We're going to skip ahead here, folks, because this is just a trip down memory lane. Okinawa was returned to Japan after 27 years of military occupation.
Okinawa. Sorry.
That's okay. And I'm reminded Pat Morita actually had a guest appearance in the first season of the Bob Newhart Show. Anyways, a natural disaster that both Toppie and I have talked about before that hit our neck of the woods, the Northeast, Hurricane Agnes. It formed north of the Yucatan, which was that little part of the boot in Mexico where they think that the comet that killed the dinosaurs hit. Well, it dropped up to 9 feet of water in New York's southern tier, and you've recalled your own stories about that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed.
Standby battery. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so let's see. And to this day, there are businesses that have a plaque telling you where the water line was in their building.
Yeah. Now, that's pretty exciting, folks, when you can find that plaque. Just let me tell you.
The Supreme Court of the United States ruled that the death penalty was unconstitutional in 72. And probably the most important achievement in 72, the first women were admitted to Dartmouth College, and women were allowed to compete in the Boston Marathon for the first time.
Jeepers creepers. It's hard to even remember that they didn't admit women into the marathon at one time. Holy cow. Well, folks, we got some boys, as I like to say, in 72, some famous people. or at least so-called famous people. Jennifer Garner, she was in Pearl Harbor. She was in Catch Me If You Can. Dwayne Johnson. What do they call him? The Rock, right?
Yes, sir.
He's become quite the guy. A lot of fun Disney movies, and then, you know, he was in like Jumanji, The Next Level, Get Smart. He was in those mummy movies. Yeah. Oh, Octavia Spencer. She's from The Help. That was a recent movie for her. Wait a minute. 2011 is not recent. Forgive me. Good Lord. She was also in Hidden Fingers from 2016.
Please pronounce that word correctly.
What did I say?
Fingers.
Oh, sorry. The movie was called Hidden Figures, folks.
It's getting to him. Gertie, get him another cold drink.
Yeah, please. And last but not least, we also had born in 72, John Cho, Ben Affleck, Cameron Diaz, and Gwyneth Paltrow.
Now, Toppie, before we conclude our trip down to memory lane in 72, there's something important in recent history that involves that story, Hidden Figures. Do you have an idea?
Well, I don't think I even know what that movie's about.
It's the story about the women mathematicians that were in the space program. They calculated the trajectories and everything for the Apollo program.
That's right. And then they were never given credit, right?
Right. So I do believe that the engineer character that was in Hidden Figures, because it's based on a true story, Mary Jackson, I want to say is her name, was one of the first women engineers to work at NASA. She was featured in the story of Hidden Figures, and she only recently, a year or two ago, passed away. She got to meet President Obama, and she received the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And they are, in light of recent events, they are renaming the NASA headquarters building in Washington, D.C. after Mary Jackson.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Good. All right. We want to talk about, before we start the Bob Newhart Show, in 1972, DJ, who was also on TV, that the Bob Newhart Show had to go up against.
Alrighty, so Bob Newhart, it started off on Saturdays. It was there for a long time, and it was at 9:30. That started in the fall of 72 on CBS, the home of the Big Brother there. It was after the Mary Tyler Moore Show. So they actually shared the same production company, and they were on opposite. So on the other stations, some of the shows you had.
Wait a minute. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I have been waiting for this moment.
Oh, yeah?
Good Humor Penguin got the audio, and he can hear us now. Hi, Good Humor Penguin. You haven't much. Mostly DJ and I have been flapping our gums here. So
Toppie's gonna put his teeth back in.
Yeah. So anyways, we're very happy you're here, Penguin, and I'm very glad you can hear us. DJ, I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
Okay. So in 72, competing for your attention against the Bob Newhart Show on the other networks, opposite Bob Newhart on CBS, they had a show called The Streets of San Francisco on ABC. Now, this was a police drama, and it starred Mike Douglas. And, of course, it was set in San Francisco. And
yes. You know, I never saw that show. Never.
No, Richard Hatch was on later on in that series before he was on Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, didn't know that. So what else are we got there in 72 on TV?
On ABC, also opposite the Bob Newhart Show, was the Julie Andrews Hour.
Don't remember it.
And the Bob Newhart Show in later years was moved from their slot at 9:30 once they gained their, they earned their supper. they moved them to 8 o'clock. So now they were on before the later bedtimes.
Yes.
And that started it in season 5. So their last couple of years, they were on at 8 o'clock. And maybe, a few kids might have caught it before they had to go to bed. And then over the years of its run, it was up against shows like Starsky and Hutch on ABC. And on ABC also What's Happening, with a rerun, and Raj, and I forget the sister's name. And then on NBC, one of my favorites, I can't do the springy noise. Lindsay Wagner, before she started selling mattresses, the Bionic Woman in the 72 again.
All right.
Newhart Show.
All right. That so that's what was going on television. And by the way, folks, for a good 3-4 years, CBS had Saturday nights locked down with Mary Tyler Moore, the Bob Newhart Show, and then later the Carol Burnett Show. So let me just tell you, that was super popular for a good long time. And I just want to tell this one little story as fast as I can. Okay. In 1972, I was all of 10. Okay. My parents weren't about to let me stay up till 9 o'clock, even if it was a Saturday. Just too late. So I never saw the Bob Newhart Show, until probably its 4th or 5th, and last season, right? Mm-hmm. Except for one night, DJ. One night. I was probably 11. And I went over to a friend's house. And we were playing around, and then it was quite late. And then I guess it was their habit, my friend and his father, to watch Bob Newhart and Mary Tyler Moore. Okay. Well, I had never seen them. And I got to tell you, what I remember is I was sitting there totally falling asleep, absolutely exhausted from the day, and then being woken up every 5 seconds with their hysterical laughing of my friend and his father as they watched the Bob Newhart Show and Mary Tyler Moore Show. And I just kept waking up, and they'd look at me, because they wanted to see me laugh, and they wanted to know that I found it funny. And I don't know what they saw, but they must have saw Kid Zombie sitting there with his half-closed eyes. Anyways, that's my little remembrance. Thank you. The end.
So let's see here now.
Yeah.
Well, Toppie, let's tell the folks a little more about our show.
All right. So the Bob Newhart Show, it was produced by MTM, meow, and it aired for a total of 6 seasons, 72 to 78. And they came up with 140 half-hour episodes over all that time. DJ, I know folks want to hear it. Play the Bob Newhart theme. I think they used that particular version for the first 2, maybe 3, but I think somewhere around the 3rd or 4th season they came up with a zippier version of that theme. So, DJ, what the devil did the show? What was it about? Just give us a brief overview of what was the Bob Newhart Show about.
Okay, well, the show centers on Bob Hartley, PhD, which was Mr. Newhart's character. He was a Chicago psychologist, and most of the activity occurred between his work and home life with his supportive, although occasionally sarcastic, wife Emily, and their friendly but inept neighbor, airline navigator Howard Borden, who some of you will recognize from the I Dream of Jeannie show. The medical building where Bob's psychology practice is located also houses Jerry Robinson, an orthodontist, whose office is on the same floor, and their receptionist, Carol Kester.
And Aunt Tudor just posted a photo of the character, Carol Kester. We're going to talk about her real name in just a few minutes. These situations, because it was a sitcom, and remember, sitcom is short for a situation comedy. But most of the situation involved Newhart's character being the straight man to most of the people around him, including his wife, his colleagues, his friends, and his patients. There was a frequent running gag on the show that's kind of an extension of Bob Newhart's origins in the comedy scene. And one of his famous routines that he really got known for were these routines where he would be on the phone with someone. We would only hear his side of the conversation. And yet he would, because of the way he responded to what the person was saying on the phone, we would understand, and the humor would come out of this kind of delivery. So, as a matter of fact, the first 2 seasons of the Bob Newhart Show started with the phone ringing and Bob Newhart picking it up and saying, hello. And so the humor involved the home, the workplace, and DJ, let's play clip 2, and we'll hear a little bit of how things sounded in the office with the secretary and the orthodontist and Bob coming in.
Ah, Carol, do you know what time it is? Exactly.
Yeah, exactly 3 hours till lunch.
Is that all you ever think about?
No, sometimes I think about you,
Oh.
but then I can't eat lunch.
You want to see what I got?
Big deal, I get 2 of them.
No, my new digital watch here. You see, it tells you the time exactly right up to the second. It is now 9:08, 47, 48, 49, 50. 1, 2, 3,
Jerry's learned to count.
5, 6. You must be very proud. No. See, I was showing Carol my new digital watch.
You haven't seen my new tape recorder. It has 3 speeds, has an automatic counter, and a lifetime battery.
Yeah, well, you see, this baby not only gives you the time, the day, and the date, but also tells you the temperature and the wind velocity.
Did I show you my new paperclip holder? It holds paper.
It has battery recharger and extra long mic cord.
Would you like to see the stapler to end all staplers?
I'm leaving. Incidentally, the barometer is rising.
Oh, let's run.
Well, I can't, Carol. I have to get ready for my group.
Oh, your group's in there already, Bob. You're late.
I am. What time is it?
Did I hear someone say what time is it?
What time is it, Jerry?
It is exactly 78 degrees.
So let's talk about Bob Newhart. And I'm going to go on about him a bit because I think his origins are so interesting. So he was born in 1929 in Illinois. He spent some time in the Army when he was drafted to serve during the Korean War. He was discharged in 1954. After the war, Newhart attended Loyola University, Chicago School of Law. Can you believe it? But he didn't complete the degree. He then worked as an accountant for several different businesses, and he wasn't a very good accountant. Then, kind of in an obscure way, in 1958, Bob Newhart kind of had his big break, although he wouldn't know it for a couple more years. That's when he became employed by an advertising company. And Bob Newhart started as a copywriter for Fred A. Niles, a major independent film and television producer in Chicago. While working there, he struck up a friendship with a coworker, and the two of them would entertain each other with long telephone calls about absurd scenarios. Somewhere along the line, they started recording them, and they realized, hey, this is kind of funny. And so they sent the recording to radio stations kind of his audition tapes. Well, this went on with nothing remarkable happening. And then the coworker left because he took a job in New York. And by the way, either the coworker's real name is forever lost to history or Bob Newhart doesn't want anyone to know. I don't know, but I would love to know who this guy was, but I don't anyways. So Newhart continued these recordings alone, and he started developing his little style, which would be he would talk on the phone. You wouldn't hear the other person, but he would develop a comedy routine. So one of the disc jockeys out there that got a recording from Newhart liked it so much he introduced Bob Newhart to the head of talent at Warner Brothers Records. Well, folks, they signed him. They liked it so much. They signed him in 1959. And that damn thing became a hit. It was just crazy, sold crazy. Everybody loved it. And then he did the 1960 comedy album, The Button-Down Mind of Bob Newhart. And it was the first comedy album to make #1 on the Billboard charts. It won the 61 Grammy Award for Album of the Year. And it peaked at #2 in the UK Albums chart. And Newhart also won Best New Artist. So this is phenomenal. I mean, here's this dope who went to college and law school and like, well, okay, I'll be an accountant. And he stumbles and finds his natural funniness and he becomes known so well. So he did a lot of other albums in 61, 62, and 65, 71, and 73 were releases for more material. And he also started appearing on television. And he happened to guest star on a show called The Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour. And he was approached by his agent by a producer by the name of Grant Tinker. You may have heard that name. He is associated with MTM Productions. And Grant Tinker and actress Mary Tyler Moore were then husband and wife. And they're the ones that founded MTM. And they wanted Newhart for a new pilot series called The Bob Newhart Show. Like, I guess it may have had another name had they found someone else. Anyways, it was to be written by David Davis and Lorenzo Music. TJ, play clip 3.
Alrighty. Oh, that was...
Bob, what are you doing?
Nothing.
You trying to record me talking in my sleep?
You don't talk in your sleep. You snore.
I don't snore.
Well, no. Your nostrils were flaring. You woke up just in the nick of time.
Oh, I'm sorry to disappoint you.
Well, there'll be other nights. Right, no other nights.
You know, Bob, you're really going overboard with this thing. Last night you taped yourself gargling.
I was just testing the fidelity of the mic.
This is just like all the other gadgets you buy in a week. It's going to wind up in the back of the closet.
Not this baby. This baby is a very expensive professional tool of my trade.
How expensive, Bob?
Well, it doesn't matter. It's deductible.
How deductible, Bob?
It's pretty deductible.
How much, Bob?
Do you have to keep calling me Bob?
All right. How much, Lyle?
$420.
$420 for a toy?
This is not a toy. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Pilot to bombardier. Pilot to bombardier.
Over and out.
Are you going to sleep?
No, I'm just gonna lie here and let my nostrils flare.
If you start snoring, we'll be right here.
Will you get that thing out of here?
All right, I'll put it to bed. Don't call it a thing. It's my friend.
Well, then why don't you pour it a warm glass of milk?
So who was that distinctive voice DJ? Who was that actress that was playing Bob Newhart's wife?
Oh, well, we're going to get to her in a moment, Toppie. We're at the halfway mark in the show. So we're going to sneak on over here to the snack bar, to our concession stand. And our dear, sweet senior showgirl, Gertie, is going to be serving up some treats. Gertie, are you there?
I'm sorry. Yes, I am. Boy, is my iced tea good.
Yeah, a little too good, I think. So we have a treat for you folks. Toppie, tell us what we're going to be listening to.
Okay, so this is a really old routine that was very typical for Bob Newhart in the very early 60s. This is here you'll hear him play a character who is talking with someone who you don't hear, and all of the comedy comes out of Bob Newhart himself, even though he's having a conversation with someone. And I think you'll in this particular one, it's a period piece, but you'll catch on as it goes. So we're gonna run and get some more iced tea, but if you're gonna stick around, here is Bob Newhart, somewhere around 61, 62.
Hello, who's calling? Oh, Sir Walter Raleigh from the colonies. Yeah, put him on, will you? Hey, Harry, you pick up your extension, will you? It's Nutty Walt again. Hi, Walt, baby. Good hearing your voice. Things are fine here, Walt. The a boatload of turkeys you sent us over here last November, they're still here, Walt. Yeah, they're walking all over London. See, that isn't a holiday over here, Walt. Just in America. Yeah, you got another winner for us, Walt, have you? Tobacco. What's tobacco, Walt? A leaf. You've got 80 tons of it. You bought 80 tons of leaves, Walt? Oh, you're beautiful, Walt. Walt, I don't know if you noticed last time, we have plenty of leaves over here in England. See, come fall, we're up to... It's a special kind of leaf. It's some kind of food, is it, Walt? No, not exactly. What do you do with the leaves, Walt? Lots of different things. Are you saying snuff, Walt? And what's snuff? You take a pinch of tobacco and you stick it up your nose, and it makes you sneeze. I imagine it would, Walt. Yeah. Goes over very big there, does it? Yeah, goldenrod seems to do it over here, Walt. Tobacco has other uses. You can chew it or stuff it in a pipe. Or you can shred the leaves, put it in a little piece of paper, roll it up. You don't have to tell me, Walt. You stick it in your ear, right? Between your lips. Okay, Walt. And then what do you do with it? Is that fire to it, Walt? Hey, you want to get on the intercom? I don't want the boys to miss this. You spilled your coffee. What's coffee, Walt? It's a drink you make out of beans. You roast them, and then you pour them in a cup. You drink it in the morning while you smoke your cigarette. I'm still here, Walt. I'm still here. Look, Walt, I'll tell you what to do. Put some of those on the boat. Yeah. If you can hook them with the burning leaves, I'm sure they'll go for the beans. I'm with you, Walt. Do me one favor, Walt. Don't call me anymore.
So there you go. That was a very typical Bob Newhart routine. That's the kind of thing that made him famous. And we're going to get back to the Bob Newhart Show. We were just about to talk about the sultry-voiced Suzanne Pleshette, who played his wife, Emily.
Okay, well, Suzanne Pleshette, her character was a school teacher and later assistant principal. Pleshette was born in 1937 in Brooklyn Heights. So she's a New Yorker, and she graduated from Manhattan's High School of Performing Arts. They based a TV show on that in the 80s called Fame, and she later graduated from Manhattan's prestigious acting school, the Neighborhood Playhouse School of the Theater. Suzanne Pleshette began her career as a stage actress in 1957, making her Broadway debut in Compulsion. In 1958, she performed in the debut of The Cold Wind and the Warm. And in 1959, she was featured in the comedy Golden Fleecing. Now, in 1961, February that year, she succeeded Anne Bancroft as Anne Sullivan Macy, opposite 14-year-old Patty Duke's Helen Keller in The Miracle Worker. And Suzanne Plechette's early movies included The Geisha Boy, which I believe was a Jerry Lewis film, Rome Adventure, Fate is the Hunter, and Youngblood Hawk. But she was best known at the time for her role in Alfred Hitchcock's classic suspense film, The Birds.
Yay.
In 1966, Nevada Smith, and she was nominated for a Laurel Award for her starring performance in the comedy If It's Tuesday, This Must Be Belgium. And she co-starred in Mr. Budwing and the Western comedy Support Your Local Gunfighter. Pleshette starred in a number of Walt Disney films, family films, of course, most notably in The Shaggy D.A., which I think was sort of a sequel to The Shaggy Dog.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, and this was in 1976. The original starred Fred McMurray.
Yes.
She was the lead actress in a film that's one of my favorites in 1979. It's called Hot Stuff.
Really? One of your favorites?
Yes, and little did I know until recently, not only was Dom DeLuise in Hot Stuff, he directed it.
Oh.
And in 1980, one of our favorite years to do films on, she was in with radio legend George Burns in Oh God, Book 2. That's the one with the devil in it?
Yes. Radio, vaudeville, radio, movies, and stage star. In addition to all that, what anyways, what was his name? It's already left me.
Not George Burns.
Yes, George Burns.
Oh, George Burns, yes. And Suzanne's, you want to say it?
No, go ahead.
Okay, Suzanne Plechette's first TV screen role was in the episode Night Rescue in 1957. She was also in other TV shows such as the CBS adventure drama TV series Harbor Master, Playhouse 90, Decoy, Have Gun Will Travel, One Step Beyond, Riverboat, and the aforementioned Alfred Hitchcock, but this was his Presents series.
Mm-hmm.
A show called Channing. She was also in a show called Ben Casey, Naked City, Wagon Train. Now, Pleshette appeared in the pilot episodes for both The Wild Wild West and Dr. Kildare, for which she was nominated for her first Emmy Award. And in 1971, Pleshette was cast as the wife of Newhart's character in the Bob Newhart Show. Now, Toppie, ask me, when was the first time I'd heard Suzanne Plechette's name.
TJ, when was the first time you heard Suzanne Plechette's name?
Little did I know I had already seen things with her in it, but I hadn't heard her name spoken. In fact, there's a movie with Tom Hanks where Aerosmith, Steven Tyler's daughter, Liv Tyler, has one of her first movie roles, and it's called That Thing You Do. And it was sort of a take on the story of the Beatles. But That Thing You Do, the boss at the record company was supposedly seen having lunch out with Suzanne Pleshette, to which he said, "Would you knock it off? The wife works upstairs."
Very good. Well, my first exposure to Suzanne Pleshette was Elvita The Birds. DJ, let's play that clip 4, and it's more hijinks around the office with the wonderful receptionist and orthodontist and Bob.
You know, I've known Jerry for 8 years, and now he seems like a stranger.
Carol, what do we really know about Jerry?
Well, he's an orphan, and he's a dentist, and he's been a good friend.
Not much to go on, is it? One thing I do know, Jerry's stealing is a cry for help. You've got to stand by him, Carol.
Well, why don't you let him keep the tape recorder?
It's my tape recorder.
Bob, I don't believe Jerry would do something like this.
Carol, you're so naive. I wonder if maybe there aren't some other things missing around the office.
You know, come to think of it, I can't find my stapler or my letter opener.
Well, I borrowed those. Oh, hi. What's going on? Just admiring your new tape recorder. Yeah.
It looks just like Bob's.
Yeah. Only mine cost $90 less. I got it on sale. Here's the bill. Read it and weep. Good deal. Yeah. So, what are you two doing in here anyway?
I just stopped by to deliver your mail.
Yeah, and I was helping. Tell me the two of you carried this up all by yourselves. I carried the heavy end. I must have pulled something. I have that check. Good.
So that was the orthodontist you heard in that clip, Dr. Jerry Robinson. We're going to talk about him in 2 seconds, but I want to take this time to welcome a couple additions to the chat room. One is the ever mysterious Cronehaven. She has joined us. So has Vivian Lee, and so has our pal Spanking B. Arthur. And thanks for joining us, guys and gal. So Peter Bonners is the actor who played the orthodontist, Bob's friend, and he was born in 1938 in New Hampshire, but he grew up mostly in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and he attended Marquette University High School. And he started doing performing on stage with a group called the Prep Players. And that was his first theatrical experience. Then he went on to Marquette University, where he did more acting with the Marquette University Players. And then he graduated with a Bachelor's of Science degree, don't you know, in 1960. He just said, you know what? I'm going to New York City, and I'm going to pursue comedy and acting. So he got involved with an improv group there in New York City called The Premise. And then there was a little matter of getting drafted and having to join the Army. But he did some acting and improv even while in the Army. And after the Army, he got involved in an improv troupe in San Francisco. and that was called The Committee. Guess who was in that? Well, none other than Rob Reiner, David Ogden Stiers, Howard Hessman, and Hamilton Camp. So that's pretty good company. So Bonner's eventually landed on TV, and his first appearance was on the Addams Family. And it was in 1965, and it was the season 2 episode, Morticia the Writer. And he had quite a bit more doings in the 60s on television, but he also got into movies. So he was in several films, including the 1967 movie Funny Man. He was in Whatever Happened to Aunt Alice in 1969. He was in Medium Cool, also in 69, Catch 22 in 1970. By the way, Bob Newhart was in Catch 22. Wait a minute. Yeah, was he? Was he? Is that true? We need to have a fact checker. Bob Newhart was in Catch 22. Anyways, he was also in a movie called Fuzz. And he was also in a television show called Story Theater, very short-lived. It was an ensemble cast that included Alan Alda, Valerie Harper, and then finally, in 72, his big break, his big role as the supporting role of Dr. Jerry Robinson, the orthodontist who was kind of eccentric and weird on the Bob Newhart Show. And most of his scenes was with the receptionist, and her name is Marcia Wallace, the actress who played Carol, the sharp-tongued receptionist. DJ, let's play clip 5, and this is a scene that takes place in the Newhart. It takes place in their sometimes described as an apartment and sometimes described as a condo, but they're I don't know, they're on like the 10th floor or something. And this is their neighbor, who's a pilot, and he's played by Bill Daly. So let's roll that one.
Howard's not at home. There's no answer. Now give me the extra key for his apartment.
Bob, now he told you he did not take that tape recorder.
A quick search will confirm it.
You could be arrested for breaking and entering.
Howard is not going to arrest me. I'm his best friend.
Excuse me, do you have an extra key to my apartment? I locked myself out.
Here it is, Howard.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me help you, Howard.
It's okay, I can let myself in.
Well, I just haven't seen your apartment for a long time. You know, maybe you redecorated, maybe added something about that big with lifetime batteries and a long mic cord.
You still think I took that tape recorder, don't you? I never stole anything my whole life. Well, I did steal something once, but, I didn't get caught, so it doesn't count. Besides, I was an Eagle Scout.
Congratulations, Howard.
Oh, thank you, Emily.
Howard, don't you think you're protesting a little too much?
If I wanted a Mirosika tape recorder, I could have picked one up cheap in Japan.
You see, Bob?
I don't believe I ever mentioned the brand name.
Well, I saw it on the tape recorder when you showed it to me.
Nice try, Howard, but the label was in Japanese. I don't believe you read Japanese.
Well, I recognize the case.
Are you sure it was in a case?
Don't remember.
Aha!
You believe me, don't you, Emily? I was a hall monitor in school, and I was an altar boy in church, and I take a shower every day. If that doesn't prove that I don't steal, I don't know what does.
Howard, it's our magazine.
I know it.
Breaking news in the chat room, folks. Sure enough, our kind friends in the chat room have determined that it's true. Bob Newhart was in Catch 22. And let me see. Cronehaven believes the character's name was Major. Is that right? Major in Catch 22. I don't know. Anyways, let's talk about the receptionist Carol, and that was portrayed by Marsha Wallace, the wonderful Marsha Wallace. Tell us about her, DJ.
Oh, right. Marsha Wallace, she was a sharp-tongued receptionist on the Bob Newhart Show and was born in Iowa. So right there in the heartland in 42. Now, in high school, a teacher encouraged Wallace to consider a career in acting after she did well in a school play. Following graduation from Creston High School, Wallace attended Parsons College in Fairfield, Iowa, which had offered her a full scholarship. At Parsons, she majored in English and theater, performing in Brigadoon and The Music Man. After college, Wallace moved to New York, where she typed scripts and performed in summer stock. She did commercials and worked as a substitute English teacher in the Bronx. After performing for a year in Greenwich Village nightclubs, Wallace and four fellow entertainer friends formed an improvisational group called The Fourth Wall. And in 68, Wallace appeared for a year of off-Broadway with the group. Afterwards, she made several other appearances in improvisational shows, and after losing 100 pounds from her previous weight of 230, she appeared in a nude production of Dark of the Moon at the Avant-Garde Mercer Arts Center. Wallace was a semi-regular on The Merv Griffin Show, appeared over 75 times, and when the show moved to Los Angeles, Wallace moved with it at Griffin's request. One of these appearances in March of 72 led to a phone call from TV producer Grant Tinker, who offered her a supporting role on the Bob Newhart Show on the recommendation of CBS founder Bill Paley. The role of Carol Custer, the sarcastic receptionist to Dr. Robert Hartley, Bob Newhart's character, was written specifically for her. Wasn't originally in the first pilot, but we'll get to that in a moment.
Right. So let's talk about the wonderful Bill Daly. He was the neighbor. He was the navigator that worked for the airlines. I just love him. We all knew him from I Dream of Jeannie, right? And he was so good in that. And he followed that up 2 years later by being cast in the Bob Newhart Show. But he was born in 27 in Iowa, but he spent most of his youth in Chicago. He studied for a time at the Goodman Theater School, but he left home because he was musically inclined, and he left to play the upright brass. No, bass. Why can't I have bass? Is very strangely spelled. Don't you think so, DJ? Yes. So he played the bass, and with jazz bands, and he played all throughout the Midwest. But he too got drafted into the Army. All these guys did. It was the Korean War back then. And then after the Army, he started doing stand-up comedy. I'd love to know how he made this jump, but I couldn't find out how. And he started playing bigger clubs as a stand-up comedy all across the country. He graduated from the Goodman Theater School eventually, and then he got a kind of a steady job in Chicago at a television station, WMAQ, and he was an announcer, and he was the floor manager, but eventually he became the staff director. And coincidentally, Daly said that he was preparing for a Chicago area Emmy Award telecast where a young Bob Newhart was in the room and as a writer, and Daly asked Newhart, perfect stranger to him, to come up with a routine about press agents that resulted in the very famous routine written by Bob Newhart. It's called Abe Lincoln versus Madison Avenue. So that's interesting that they had that. They touched base way back then. So in between times, Daly had a thing going with the Mike Douglas Show in Cleveland. Who knew the Mike Douglas Show started in Cleveland? But it did. And comedian and TV show host Steve Allen appeared on the Mike Douglas Show. And he saw Daly and said, "My God, I like that guy. He is good." And he stole Daly away to take him to Los Angeles for one of his own syndicated shows. And, well, when you're there in Los Angeles, guess what? You're going to be on TV. So Daly appeared in, oh gosh, lots of TV shows. My Mother, Car, The Farmer's Daughter, Bewitched, and then Sidney Sheldon, the writer for I Dream of Jeannie, saw him and said, "That's the guy. That's who I want. I Dream of Jeannie." And after that, it was only 2 years later, after Jeannie was canceled, that Daly was back on television in another uniform, another aviator uniform, as Howard Borden and the Bob Newhart Show. So there you go. It's so funny how careers work and things happen, and it's all luck and who you know, and that's what happens. So DJ, we got a couple of creators of the show, a producer writer team. Talk about the producer first. That would be David Davis. DJ.
Okay, so Mr. David Davis was born in 1937. He was an American television producer and television writer. He was best known for work on sitcoms, such as the Bob Newhart Show. It was a series he co-created with Lorenzo Music. He also did Taxi, which was a series he co-created with James L. Brooks, Stan Daniels, and Ed Weinberger. In 1979, he won a Primetime Emmy Award for his production work on Taxi. And he also produced for the series OK Crackerby, My Mother the Car, He and She, The Good Guys, one of my favorites, Get Smart, and wrote episodes for The Mary Tyler Moore Show and its spinoff Rhoda.
So Lorenzo Music, spelled just the way you think, music. He was born in 1937. Now, this guy who David Davis worked with, well, he was like everything. He was an actor. He was a writer. He was a producer. He was a musician. Lorenzo Music was. By the way, one of the things he's best known for is voice work for the cartoon of the comic strip cat Garfield. He's the guy that does his voice.
Huh.
And he's also done, other voice work for cartoons and video games and commercials. But it's probably Garfield is his most well-known voiceover work. So anyways, way back when the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour in 68 and 69 was going on, Music became a writer and a regular performer on that show. And he was also a writer for the Mary Tyler Moore Show, which would lead him to start writing and actually co-creating the Bob Newhart Show. And by the way, remember I said he was a musician? Well, he wrote the theme song to the Bob Newhart Show, actually along with his wife, Henrietta Hippo. No. Her name was just Henrietta. Music continued writing for the Mary Tyler Moore Show, just like his buddy. He also did writing for Rhoda. And then, this is interesting. So there was a character on Rhoda. He was Carlton the Doorman. Well, think of Garfield's voice and think of Carlton the Doorman. Yep, same guy, Lorenzo Music. He did the voice of Carlton the Doorman. So here we are, DJ. The Bob Newhart Show, 1972. Uh, boy, I watched the earliest episodes and I was just absolutely flabbergasted by the outfits Suzanne Pleshette had to wear. Oh my lord! Oh
I mean,
God!
at the risk of sounding chauvinist, I'm not sure that her eyes got top billing in most of those outfits.
I don't know. I mean, oh my God, you have to see this stuff, folks. And styles changed quickly, around 72. And because by the time the series ended, everybody had a perm and they were wearing very different things. But, her hair was a mess the first season. Just a mess.
It sure was. Now, Toppie, I thought I would insert this little caveat. This is kind of a little piece of trivia. Now, it's not anything you can find out there unless you have the DVDs that were released. But in the first season, there is an episode which is spelled out Pilot. Now, they had some fun with it. They hyphenated it like it was somebody spelling it. But they didn't have another name for it because it was the original script for the pilot episode. Now, for someone who may not have seen it, basically, it's a very different story than the rest of the series because unlike the rest of the Bob Newhart Show, which focuses on, a career psychologist and his wife who's a teacher, it's this couple who is trying to have a baby. And they end up deciding that they're going to adopt after they've been to a couple's home that's expecting.
Mm-hmm.
But in that episode, it's very strange because you watch the episode before and the episode after, and the set has changed. It makes you think, am I in a different season? And that's when I found out it was actually intended to be the original pilot. And the character of Carol Kester was a last-minute addition to the series. In fact, the available copies of episode 9, season 1, actually feature Carol, but she was added in. So if you have the released DVD sets, you can see the original unaired pilot without Carol.
Oh, interesting. By the way, interestingly enough, that pilot episode, which was about the two of them wanting to have a baby and then considering adoption, Bob Newhart famously said right after that, "We're never having a baby. It would ruin the show. It ain't going to happen, or I'm out of here." And that's why, the receptionist, Carol, got pregnant. And I think towards the end, didn't Suzanne Pleshette get pregnant? Did she have a baby towards the end? I think Bob Newhart may have relented because he knew the end was coming for the show. But anyways, famously, Bob Newhart was totally against them having a kid as a character in the show. So, the show was known for the famous understated comedy of Bob Newhart. And it didn't play well for non-adults. It was really an adult show in the way that Mary Tyler Moore was kind of an adult show. And as such, Bob Newhart Show didn't fare well in syndication because kids weren't interested. So it didn't have a long syndicated run anywhere, except later on, of course, when things like Nickelodeon came along and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But that it was really Bob Newhart that and how he delivered his line. He had this stammer that was an intentional stammer that he used to good effect all the time. And DJ, what are other memorable characters or moments or situations you can think of?
Well, there are a few scenes throughout the first season where they're establishing their characters. And, watching it now, I think to myself how they might have adapted this, how they might do things differently. One in particular, this one episode where Bob had to go back to the office because he was going to be hosting a bachelor party, I think, and there was going to be a poker game. And of course, Emily was asked to stay behind and, host the guys that were coming. And when the episode is ending, he's on the phone to her because he's stayed at the office late and he wants to hear how the poker game went. And of course, she ended up having to explain that she lost almost all the money that he had in this jar. But I could see how, because the Emily character, she was sharp-witted. I could see where if this show had been made a few years later, she might actually have cleaned the house. And I don't mean, linens. I think she would have won the poker game.
Yeah. Yeah, let me visit the chat room because there's some interesting conversations being had. They talked a lot about Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie. And Vivian Lee said, I Dream of Jeannie was a woman's nightmare. Oh, master. And Tommy agreed. Tommy thought Samantha on Bewitched was a little more liberal. And Crone says, well, Jeannie got what she wanted. Vivian Lee said, Samantha is the perfect woman and witch. Jeannie lived in a bottle. So Crone even said Jeannie's bottle was the TARDIS. They also mentioned, let me move down here. Cronehaven says, my favorite show was the one where Bob woke up from a dream, then woke Suzanne up to tell her his weird dream about running an inn in Vermont. And, of course, that was the very famous ending to a different Bob Newhart series, simply called Newhart, where he ran an inn in the mountains of Vermont. And the last episode, he wakes up and there's Susan Pleshette. And he says, wow, I just had this dream. I was working at an inn in Vermont. And Spakey said he loved that. Vivian Lynch says that was the final episode of the second series. Crone, he says, best ending of a series ever. Tommy, very famous scene, so perfect. So that, everybody, that was like, that was the last thing you expected. And it was an unforgettable ending. Anything else we want to add? DJ, let's get into that quickly. The 10 best episodes, just to see if that strikes anybody's remembrances of the Bob Newhart Show. The 10 best episodes, says someone, right?
Right. This was a list of fan favorite episodes. And the first one was a season 4 episode. And it was a Thanksgiving show. And it was called Over the River and Through the Woods. Story was it was a stag Thanksgiving for Bob when Emily flies off to join a family reunion, leaving Bob to share the holiday with his male buddies. Now, interestingly enough, of course, Emily didn't like to fly. Number 2 on the list was A Day in the Life, and this was a season 6 episode, so a bit later on, almost the end. Bob's impulsive decision to leave town for a week is received with disastrous emotions by his patient who seemingly can't make it without him.
Oh, I just want to say, it was also mentioned in the chat room, over the course of the 6 years, there were many bits with many different patients that Bob Newhart had, and they were some of the best bits. And I remember sometimes they'd have these group sessions. They'd all be in his office. Oh my God!
Oh yes, there was a good one with a family that all seemed, prim and proper and perfect, and then, his other patient came in and they started fighting.
There were a lot of character actors who had, appeared again and again as the same character, the same patient, and it was good. Go ahead. Give us some more of these top 10. Get down to the bottom of the list because we're running out of time.
Well, I'll go ahead and give you the next 3 to make it the top 5. So the third favorite is from season 1, episode 3. And the guest in that actually was a soap opera star. I'm forgetting his name, but Bob experiences pangs of jealousy. This was called Tennis Emily. When Emily's handsome new tennis instructor comes to see him with an emotional problem, namely his inability to turn down women who are all uncontrollably attracted to him. Aw, poor him. Then 4 was Emily, I'm Home. Emily. In season 1, episode 21, Bob was upset when Emily takes a full-time job with the Board of Education. Oh, the wifey got a job. And Emily explained that working full-time makes her feel wonderful, while quitting would make her miserable. Bob decides to leave well enough alone, and he has to eat instant dinners and things. And then the top 5, the number 5 was Who's Mr. X? Season 4, episode 9. Bob accepts a seemingly innocent invitation to appear as the guest on a TV discussion program. He winds up in the jaws of a dilemma when the show host turns out to have the disposition of a shark. Yeah, the TV show host had it out for him. Basically said that psychologists are quacks.
So the finale of the series, we learned that Bob has accepted a job in a different state, I believe, and he's going to be teaching at some university. And so he's leaving Chicago. He's leaving all of his friends, all of his coworkers, and they have a teary goodbye. And that was they did some kind of salute to Mary Tyler Moore that had signed off the previous year. I'm not sure what exactly it was, but they made some kind of wink and nod to Mary Tyler Moore's last show. And maybe somebody in the chat room remembers exactly what that wink and nod was. I don't. At any rate, DJ, we are at the end of the show. This is when we like to just sort of recommend a couple of other shows or related things that Bob Newhart inspires us, so that if you like Bob Newhart, you'd like maybe something else that we're going to suggest. DJ, what are you suggesting?
Alrighty, well, I didn't catch Bob Newhart in its initial run. I saw it on TV, or Nick at Night, which was the later hour of the Nickelodeon channel with the classic sitcoms. And so Bob Newhart wasn't my time frame, but a show that was very much an homage to Bob Newhart in that it starred a psychologist was a spin-off of Cheers, starring Kelsey Grammer, Frasier. And of course, he was a radio host because, you got to put a spin on the idea of being a psychologist. You're going to be on the radio in the 90s.
Fair enough. I can see, yeah. Frasier was very much structured like Bob Newhart Show, because Frasier had scenes at his home, he had scenes at his workplace, and the humor came from, the characters that surrounded him. So, yeah, totally get it. The other thing I could think of really is another MTM production, The Mary Tyler Moore Show, which they were back-to-back on TV, such a famous pair. And both shows were so well written. And so, good heavens, if you like the Bob Newhart Show, check out the Mary Tyler Moore Show. Now, DJ, we have to make our next selection, and the way we do that is we have a magic gumball machine and some magic coins that a magician left off way back when. The marionette. Yeah. Here's the coins. Drop it in there. Thanks for the gumball, Mickey. Good heavens. All right. Next time, DJ, what do we got?
Okay, so this is going to be in 2 weeks from tonight on Friday, July 17th, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on Univaz. I'm just going to gear this up here.
Let's introduce the Zoo. I'm Mayor Ben. I'm here to lend a helping hand.
It's an 80s, mid to late 80s children's family comedy starring Ben Vereen. And it's about a community of anthropomorphic animals facing the challenges of life together. Next time on Matinee Minutia, Zoobly Zoo.
Good Lord. All right, maybe some of you. I think that may have been too old for that or something. I don't even remember. Zoobly Zoo, huh? Why do all the animals have to be anthropomorphic anyways? I don't know. Oh, my God.
I will. I'm going to
Mhm.
paste a link into the chat room for folks to check that out. But it ran for 2 seasons, and I think where I caught on to it was on PBS in its reruns. Nowadays, the rights to it are owned by the Hallmark Channel, and it never is released on DVD. It's only available in collections on eBay on VHS.
All right. I want to throw another anthropomorphic live action show for children and that had who remembers the New Zoo Review? It's the New Zoo Review coming right at you with Doug and Mary Jo. La la la. Okay, never mind.
Sorry, this keeps. Okay, sorry that keeps coming back. Oh
right.
yeah, that wasn't a segment of the Muppets, was it?
No. It was a little half-hour syndicated thing. And Henrietta Hippo and Woodsy the Owl. No, I don't remember the characters. I do remember Henrietta Hippo, but that's the only one I can't remember. They would just dance and sing, and so we gotta go, TJ.
Okay, so if you will, sir, please say goodnight, Gracie.
Oh, chat room, thanks so much. You made it fun tonight. Come back again. And good night, Gracie.
Thank you for listening to Matinee Minutia. Our show streams live on the first and third Friday of the month.
Go to univazpods.net, click the tower for audio, enter Discord for chat.
You can find our show anywhere you listen to podcasts. Visit our webpage at matineeminutia.com.
Tweet us on Twitter at Matinee Minutia. Find our group on Facebook.
Have an idea for a show? Or let us know how we're doing?
Email us at matineeminutia@gmail.com.
Show's gone wild with Matt and Tom.
Speak up.
The Smellcast by Toppie Smellie.
Be heard.
Tastes like burning with Tim and James.
Unique voices in podcasting.
The Shy Life Podcast. Me, all the Shy Yeti.
Univazpods.net.
Okay, and we will now jump off the stream. Thanks for joining us, folks.
Bye-bye.
And let me end the video. Ending broadcast.